All right, welcome back to another episode of the Tim and Tim Show every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm glad to be back and doing yet again another show where we kind of open up the kimono and show you what's going on the other side of the table. You know, we believe in honesty and transparency. We talk about things we got right, things we got wrong, lessons we've learned, mistakes we've made, and everything, right? There's no topic that we won't cover. And this week we're talking about what new investors get wrong. And we got these things wrong too. And we can only now, by looking at our past experiences, know that some of our assumptions or direction or focus was maybe incorrect. So hey, I think it takes a strong individual to identify when you're wrong, but it takes an even stronger individual in order to admit it. So that's what we're here today to do is to admit we were wrong. Tim Vest, how you doing today, man?
Apparently, I'm doing pretty good because I'm a strong dude. Because
You're a stronger dude, actually, by
I
my
tell people,
definition.
I tell people I was wrong all the time.
I know. I usually lead with that. I might be wrong, but correct
I,
me if I'm
pro-
wrong.
I probably will be.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
so yeah. Hey, doing well. I can't complain, right?
Well,
All
you
right.
can complain about the heat, so I know that it's causing havoc across our portfolio with HVAC systems over the last 2 months. My
It's,
goodness.
I tell you what, man. Moved my daughter in Thursday, and she got the very first day, the very first time slot available to move in. And when it happened, my wife and I both were like, 8 o'clock? Geez, come on. Uh, we were in her room with all her stuff by like 8:20, 8:30, and I could not have been happier that it was an 8 a.m. move in because, man, I walked outside at like 10:30 to go get something out of the truck, and all those people lined up moving in, and it was just like screaming hot on the black
Mm.
asphalt. I was like, God,
Oh
thank God
yeah.
for 8 a.m. move in.
Yeah, not yeah, no, and not a breeze to be found anywhere in sight.
No, not at
Oh
all.
gosh.
Yeah, that's the one thing about Raleigh. Raleigh doesn't have an ocean breeze. I'll tell you
Hey,
that.
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, Tim. So we're going to talk about things we got wrong. Um, where do you want to start? What's the number one thing that you want to put out there into the world and let people know you got wrong?
Uh, I think we'll just start off with this one. It's I mean it's I think this was something that everybody does, right? Like thinking you got to find the perfect deal. Um, I think that's probably one of the big ones for me. I was looking for perfect market, perfect numbers, perfect timing, perfect financing, perfect rents, all that stuff. Rather than, getting a property that like hits the numbers that I know I can manage to or that I'm okay managing to, and then saying, hey, here's if I can control these things that are within my control, here's where I can go.
Hmm.
I think I think that was the biggest mistake for me, especially when I got in multifamily, because I had a moment where I kind of like had to check myself because when you're doing single family flips, you walk in and it's like the roof's not perfect, the roof's old, and you're like, okay, I just factor that in, I budget that in, right? Like, and then you know uh, the hey interest rates swung a half point or something like that. It's like, all right, well, I just factor that in. So you're not looking for the perfect deal, you're just putting all these things in and you're factoring them in, and you're like, okay, here's the things I have to manage to. um, and I think that was probably one of the biggest things for me when I got into multifamily, was trying to find like the perfect deal.
Mm.
um, and basically they don't exist, man. They or they tend to be unicorns, at least, right?
Let
um,
me ask you, is there a deal that we have done that has not had a surprise?
mm, not a single thing. um,
Everything always comes like due diligence is important, right? I would argue that nobody is perfect at due diligence. Something is
mhm.
either always missed or can't be seen.
Yeah.
And I would have to say that even though we tried to have the highest attention to detail when it comes to due diligence and documenting each unit and trying to figure out our budgets based on unit inspections, and you just don't know what's gonna happen behind the walls,
Yeah.
right? Oh,
It,
here's a good example. One of
yeah.
our properties, we had just renovated the unit, spent about 12,000, new cabinets, flooring, paint. The unit upstairs did not have a drip pan on the
Ah,
air handler,
yeah.
and the air handler back overflowed, and it was overflowing for months, and we ended up having to rip open all of the walls in the ceiling in the bathroom and around the air handler
Yeah.
around this one unit after we just spent 12,000 something dollars renovating it because we couldn't see behind the wall. We didn't know that this was dripping because the resident never reported that there was a leak or anything wrong, right? It reared its head when it was too late, right?
I
Those are
got
the types of surprises I'm talking about.
I got another one. Similar issue, right? And you'll remember these as soon as I say it. These were garden styles, right? And the builder ran the drip
Oh,
line.
geez. Yeah.
The builder ran the drip line underground. So the drip line guys for the HVAC like ran through the wall, ran under the ground, and then under the slab out to an area where it could drain, um, rather than literally just going across the wall. Because guys, like these things sat in an area where it's like, hey, you literally could have run this like 10 feet and just come out the wall, right? Well, the issue, guys, is those started to back up, and we could not figure out why we were getting water and mold. We had bad mold in these units. We could not find a leak anywhere. And then finally we realized those drip lines had like basically underground, something had collapsed on the drip line and was clogging the drip lines up. And all that moisture was going back into the walls and seeping around the walls.
Yeah.
So and I'm like, I never, and for the life of me, I never would have thought, man, they ran that underground
Yeah.
on a, that was a new one. I'd never seen that before.
Water, public enemy number one.
Oh God, yeah, man.
Oh, man.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you. Like, trying to find the perfect deal and trying to make sure that everything is perfectly documented just will never happen.
Yeah.
And I think for the first couple of deals, there was a lot of fear around what could happen, right? But I think now that we've got a lot more experience around the multifamily stuff, we kind of know what are the catastrophic things that could happen,
Yep.
and any of the nuance stuff that happens in between is kind of like we'll just figure it out. We'll just fix it, right? Because that's just part of the business type of response that you have to have. Because otherwise, if you're in constant fear of being able to underwrite and to predict every single thing that could ever happen to you in terms of financial problems or physical problems at a property, you're never going to buy anything ever.
Yeah.
And I had that conversation about the insurance costs with another investor recently. And that was like, no one would ever underwrite to 200, 300, 400% increases on insurance costs. You would never, ever, ever, ever end up buying a real estate deal, right? But what happened? It happened to us.
Yeah.
We had to deal with it ultimately, right? But you figure it out. You make it work.
Man, when you ask, like, have we had a deal where we didn't have a surprise? I'm like, just insurance alone across our entire portfolio. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Surprise. But hey, Joe, what's going on, man? It is really good to see you on here.
Yeah. So on that note, yeah, man, it's been a while. Hope everything's been all right with you. On that note, underestimating repairs. I think we definitely found ourselves in a little bit of hot water there during the COVID era because prices of materials doubled. I mean, the biggest one that comes to mind that caught me by surprise was the amount that appliances had gone up, like literally overnight. What was it? We were paying, what was it, 1,800 for a package appliance, and it was going up to like 3,200 or 2,800 or something like that.
2,800, yeah.
Yeah. That was, how do you handle that, right? And it's really hard to come up with the additional money in order to do that, right? In order to achieve the business plan.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? Like you're like, okay, COVID's over, right? Like supply chains back,
everything's going to go back to normal.
and they did, stuff came down some, but hey, what's something we've seen recently is labor rates have spiked, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
part of the, one of the outcomes of the immigration initiatives that are going on is a lot of that cheap labor that's been in the country is gone.
Mhm.
And so now labor rates are spiking. I mean, guys, like even on a personal level, I'm getting, like personal projects just around my house, man. The quotes I'm getting just from a labor perspective have probably gone up 30, 35%. Um, and, I'm talking to the guys and they're like, don't have the crews and I got to make, but the demand's still there. So I got to make more off the projects I can do.
Yeah. Right.
So, uh, it's always something, guys. Always something.
Mhm. What are some other things that new investors get
Uh,
wrong? I
here's
think go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to give you one. This is I've because this is what had me end up in the Memphis market for a while, right?
Oh.
Chasing cap rates.
Mhm.
Um, like I was looking for cap rates, man. It's like, oh, I got a 10 cap. Show me that one, right?
Yeah.
And guys, this was like when everything was like super heated, and people were buying like 4.5 caps, 5 caps, and I'm like, oh, I found a 10 cap.
Mhm.
And then I found out why it was a 10 cap. Um,
Mhm. Yeah. Memphis is a tough market. It's always been an emerging market, which is interesting.
yeah, when you find a property that's not vacated and it's got fencing with quarantine wire around the top of it,
Stay away.
it's probably a good sign that you should think twice about the
Yeah.
property.
I mean, in the same breath of cap rates, I think one of the things that I weighed too heavily on as a newer investor was cap rates,
Yeah,
but in the underwriting sense of,
yeah,
well, I didn't know to normalize expenses based on what the market is going to view rather than
mm,
what we could actually do.
yep,
So in some cases, we had predicted a higher NOI and still applied the market rate cap rate against the property, but then the price per unit was just out of line, right? Thankfully, on the couple of deals that did happen on, we were saved by the market because the rents ended up going up drastically more than what we had anticipated them to do. So we
yeah,
got a little lucky there. But I learned my lesson upon those exits. It was like, wait a second. Well, how come I predicted this number, but we achieved this number? And it was,
yeah,
well, the difference between what I thought we were going to actually operate the property at to produce cash flow versus what the market the market would bear on a transactional price per door value. So as I've continued to learn more, not only do I pay attention to the cap rate because that gives you a good guideline of where you think you should be able to exit the property at, but also taking a look at your price per door and saying, is this reasonable? Yes or no?
yeah,
Right. I mean, Tim, I sent you over an underwriting this morning of another reforecast of a property that we currently own, and that's kind of where I was spending a lot of my time. Was I know what the market rate cap rate is today, and I know what we can operate it at. I wonder if I do this and then I still apply the market rate cap rate, am I going to get a reasonable price per exit? You know,
yeah, right,
so some of those things I'm sitting there weighing back and forth ultimately of like what's the right call here.
right.
And it was like it and everything ended up working out in the long run, right? But it's kind of a check, right? Where it's like when I had first done the pass, I learned that the exit price per door was like $180,000 a unit. I was like, that is literally impossible. What I found was that in my underwriting, I didn't add back in the taxes or
The tax abatement.
from the tax
Yeah,
abatement, and I didn't also consider a reassessment of the taxes on a new buyer's purchase. So then when I uploaded those numbers and it adjusted my projected NOI on the exit, and then I applied my market rate cap rate, it actually came back to a price per door that was reasonable, right? So there's a lot of moving parts in the
yeah,
underwriting file, and there's a lot of checks and balances there to make sure that you're being reasonable. But on the first deal, first couple of deals, I was like, wow, this is the market rate cap rate. This is where I think rents are going to go. This is what we're going to sell it for. But I also didn't take into consideration the readjustment of taxes and stuff like that. So I
yeah.
have learned.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one. And it's funny that like Tim's talking about that because Tim and I debated that one for a little while.
Yeah.
The very first time we were debating it, and we were like, no, the value's there, and then you finally start to realize it's like, wait a minute, why would I give you, why, first of all, why would I pay you for that as a buyer? And then second of all, if I'm not willing to pay you for that, then the next guy's probably not either. So,
Correct. Yeah. Next buyer analysis will show you a lot.
Yeah. So, hey, going back to the repairs things, because this is one, especially folks who flip or have flipped, I think this is one that'll get you, and it happens in the multifamily space, guys. And it's gotten me before. Is we all talk about, you go get the 3 bids, right, and then you go with the guy that's the most competitive, right, for the lack of a better description, and finding out that there are GCs out there who will basically lowball the bid just to get the work. And then once they get their foot in the door and they get the project started, they just steadily increase the costs. Because once they've got you started, they know the chances of you firing them and moving to somebody else is slim to none. Because what you'll learn is, like, once a project has started, especially if there's permitting involved, getting another GC to come in and pick up after a GC is almost impossible.
Yeah, nobody wants to touch somebody else's work.
Right. And so, I learned that, the hard way early on. And quite frankly, man, we've probably learned that at least once with a multifamily, right? Like, hey, here's the bid. And then when it all comes in and it is done, it's like, nope, add 30% to that number.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's tough, man. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, obviously, yes, we've experienced it. But how do we prevent it in the future? Like, what are the takeaways from that in order to help, prevent it and let other people know what they can do about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can just do the good, the good try stuff, which is, do the referrals, make sure you don't, put yourself with one person completely, all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, and because here's what I know people are going to reach out and say: fixed bid project, fixed big project. That doesn't solve the problem, because again, what'll happen? I mean, what are you going to do on a fixed bid project? Guy's going to get in there, he's going to pull the permit, he's going to get it started. And then when you tell him, no, it's a fixed bid project, I'm not paying for that increase, the scope didn't change. And he goes, all right, well, see if I show up with my crew tomorrow.
Right. And now you're stuck with a property that's half torn apart with a permit in somebody else's name and no crews to finish the work.
Yeah. And the permit's in his name, you're not getting it inspected if you do the work. So, yeah. So, I mean, fixed bid project doesn't solve that problem either.
It's tough, man. I think, one of the mistakes that I will own is that when it got easy, you start going to the same contractors because they're easy and they're comfortable 100%. And you know them. Yep. And that's ultimately, that's when you get blindsided, right? Because I don't want to say careless, but you pay a little bit less attention because you trust this individual to take care of you and take care of the job. Right. But that's kind of when things start to creep up over time because you're not paying that close attention. And what do we like to say? It's like, we get multiple bids. We love you as a contractor. We plan on continuing to use you. However, we're still going to get multiple bids just to keep you honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like we always say, like, hey, man, I like this contractor. I like this guy. Right. But it's always good till it's not. Right.
Yeah. It's great until it's not.
Yeah. So, what else we got? Hey, here's one. I always thought this, especially with the multifamily stuff. And then I realized, like, multifamily is actually easier than single family in this regard, but thinking financing is the hardest part, right? Getting the loan. Right. I have learned. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead. I don't want to interrupt the thought process.
I have just learned that, like, man, closing a deal is just a transaction. Operating a deal, that's where the donuts are made, right?
I was going to say that getting financing is not hard. Getting the financing you had projected and that you want in order to make it the most the most profitable or the best deal that you can possibly do, that can be hard, because it always comes with a certain level of negotiation. I mean, we have a couple of preferred lenders, and every single time we have to go back and negotiate with them, even though they're preferred lenders of ours. Part of it's kind of the devil, so you just, you shoot big for big ask, they're going to cut you down, and then you go back. Like, it's this dance, right? So getting financing is not hard, but getting the optimal financing is a combination of operating complexity, but also negotiating tactics and skill with the lender.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But man, like when you get it after you close that loan and then you get into it, and you're like close the loan and hey, we closed at a 135 DSCR, right?
Hmm.
Great, that's awesome. And then all of a sudden, it's like 2 months later, you're like, wait a minute, what do you mean we're not cash flowing, right? we closed, we had 0.35 of runway there, and um, and then all of a sudden you start to realize, oh wait a minute, it's really in the operations, right?
Yeah,
Um,
right. And that, I mean, that can literally change overnight. You have a rock star property manager quit,
yeah,
things are going to get difficult for you.
right. Or right, you let the team just kind of do things the easy way, right?
Hmm.
I mean, come on, man. We've seen it as well, right? Like it's easy to just say we're doing paint, floor, fixtures, and blah blah blah. That's easy, right? When on a turn, rather than walking in and being like, no, those fixtures are good. We just need to clean up the fridge. This is just paint, right?
Hmm.
That takes a little more effort from the team, right?
Yeah, right, right.
So,
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of an owner's touch.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Um,
Haven't done that recently. It gives you a lot of perspective when your boots on the ground. That's for sure.
yeah,
What some financing? Yeah, financing is not. I would say, kind of in the same breath, is that I used to think that finding deals and raising money was the hard part, and
mm,
now I don't. I mean, yes, it's still difficult, right? I mean, but it's not the hardest part. I think that there needs to be more focus on asset management and operations more so than capital raising and asset identification, because you only really need one or two good acquisitions per year to have a good year, and do
right,
that consistently over a 10-year span to be successful.
right,
So I have gotten less pressure about buying new deals and more pressure about operating them correctly and more efficiently. And that's where 95% of our time and effort and focus is currently is in the operations.
yeah, oh
Um,
yeah,
as much as I would like to buy another deal, we lost out on a deal recently by like 400 grand, which is kind of a little disheartening because I really wanted this one. But hey, somebody else was willing to come in and pay higher than I was willing to pay for. So, oh well. And there's been a couple other deals like in our target markets that have come up, and some people just pay astronomical prices. And I had this conversation. I did a podcast yesterday with one of the mastermind. We're in the Collective Genius Mastermind now after the merger with Tim Brotz's group, and I did the Collective Genius podcast, and that's what we were talking about yesterday. Was the acquisition strategy, and I was like, honestly, like he was like, "What are you excited for over the next 6 to 12 months?" And I was like, "Doing an acquisition because it's been 2 years. Like
yeah,
I'm dying to do another acquisition." But I was like, I'm excited about it because of all of the things that we've learned over the last 2 years specifically. I know that the next deal that we get is going to be worth it,
yeah,
right? And it's like I'm just not here for mediocre deals. It has to be proven performance based deals that we know are going to produce returns at the end of the
yeah,
day, and I'm
yeah.
excited for that.
And I think that's maybe something else that we learned too, right? Is like, hey, when the market's adjusting, that it doesn't mean that there aren't people out there like overpaying, right?
Yes.
And I think because I really thought things would settle down. But Tim, you're
Mhm.
talking about like target market. There was one, I don't know, a few months ago in one of our target markets where we wanted to add some scale, and we went after it, and man, we got outbid. I mean, we got outbid by like 30%. I mean, it wasn't small.
Yeah.
And then that, I was like, well, I had every indication. I really thought that group was going to back out of the deal. And I even
Hmm.
told the broker, I was like, hey, when they back out, let me know. We're still here. They closed it. And and then Tim, not naming names or anything, but I did reach out to Tim and I was like, hey man, they closed that deal. And then I was like, if we're to believe what they're posting here, they said they've closed this much and this many units. When I back into that, it's like 216,000 per unit
Hmm.
average across their portfolio. I'm like, how are these guys doing that? Um,
I
yeah,
don't
but
know.
but to your point, man, it's like, hey, I've learned to be disciplined. There was a point in time where I would have chased those guys,
Yeah.
and now you're like, no, man, I am not overpaying by 30% on this thing.
No, 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 no. And prices have adjusted in a big way. And
Sure.
people keep talking about all this debt maturities and this wave of foreclosures and distressed sales. And truthfully, I mean, we have seen some of it, but it's
Yeah.
not on this mass scale like, the single family residence in
Yeah.
2008, 9, and 10. Like it's just, yes, property values are down drastically and there are opportunities to be had, but you know, there's still a lot of what is it? Extend and pretend.
Extend and pretend. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Extend and pretend, continue, I had a conversation with another guy and they were like, dude, like, it was at the airport actually. One of the guys I was sitting next to at the bar was he worked for a bank and he was an underwriter for the bank. And I told him what I did in the area. And he goes, oh, I know those properties. And we were talking about like underwriting metrics and, how the banks are viewing stuff. And he was like, I personally know of uh, too many banks that have done loans that have matured years ago and they continue to just extend on an interest only basis because the bank doesn't want to realize the loss.
Right.
So they're like, we're just going to keep extending this loan because we have the guarantees to
Right.
do so. And they continue to pay the interest, which is higher than what they can redeploy the money at. So they're like, we just keep modifying the loan to extend it interest only so that the deal survives and eventually they'll be able to sell it and make money. I was like, why can't our lenders be like that?
Yeah, I think that also kind of speaks though to like you were talking about like there was supposed to be this wave, right? The waves just
Yeah.
weren't big enough because the wave does, and this is what we saw in 08, 09, the wave does eventually get to a point where banks go, if we're going to realize a loss, now's the time.
Yeah, right, right.
So
Make it
clean it
one
up.
massive loss
Yeah.
year instead of, 5 years of bleeding.
Yeah. So clean it up. And then they'll get super, super aggressive about cleaning up that book.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a pretty good sign that it's like, hey, the crash that people have predicted, it's either not happening or it's just not here yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I'm totally expecting to scoop up things for pennies on the dollar, but I just have not come across it. I mean,
no,
even some of the deals that I've been chasing this other deal for over a year now, and somebody else was willing to come in and pay like another $500,000. And this is like, again, on the purchase price is like 30% more than what I can underwrite to. I was like, I don't know how anybody buys this deal at this number.
yeah,
It's like it's literally the top of the market. And there's got to be an explanation of like, somebody just lives locally or, maybe they're gonna operate it themselves,
maybe,
meaning that, kind of the way the current owners were doing it. And instead of paying a management fee and payroll, they're just gonna pay themselves, and you can't compete with somebody like that, right? Like they're willing to overpay for a property that's going to pay them consistently because they're going to do all the maintenance, they're going to do all the management, and that's going to be their full-time job. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just know you're still competing with people against that look at it as a self-operated owner asset rather than an investment property, right? And
yeah,
we do investing, not just property purchasing, because I'm not looking for yet another new job of being a property manager,
yeah,
and a maintenance guy.
yeah. And that's, I mean, and quite frankly, I mean, Tim, we had a guy in our making moves group for a little while who used to be, um, I mean, he managed everything himself. He'd mow the grass himself, right? But
Hmm.
we always talk to him. And it's like, man, I think you're overpaying here. And he's like, but no, 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 I can pay this and still do this because I do these things. It's like, so you're going to overpay somebody for the privilege of cutting the grass every Saturday? I'm like, that makes
Yeah,
sense to me.
right,
Um,
right. And like, dude, if that's if I would say, just to put the shoe on the other foot, I would say if there was like a trophy asset in Wilmington that I could purchase myself and have nothing else to do except for just that property, would I love it? No. But is it a means to an end of, owning an asset in, down the street from my house that you potentially could, you know, own and live off of for the next 80 years? Maybe there's an argument there when you're just like, I just don't want to deal with the stress of everybody else's stuff anymore and just deal with
right.
my own stuff. That I know that there's an argument for that, just like a lot of people do that in the single family space. There's no reason why you couldn't do it on a multifamily asset as well.
Yeah. You just got to be real with yourself, right? You got to
Yeah,
be
you got
willing
to
to,
be real with what you can actually sell it for later on.
well, yeah, I think you also have to be real with yourself. Like because you said the key words there. It's like, if I didn't have anything else to deal with. So
Yeah.
it's like when your wife walks in and she's like, hey, it's dinner time. And you're like, sorry, can't, got to go mow the property.
Yeah, I got a water leak. Got to go fix a water leak.
Yeah,
Like
you got to be
that's what your priority is, and that's
right.
okay for some people. But I'm not that. I'm really handy with a car. I can take a motor out of a car and completely disassemble it and put it all back together. But I don't have that level of craftsmanship when it comes to like fixing things around the house. And that's okay. My father-in-law does all the around the house stuff for me, which is fine with me. But knowing what your skill sets are important too.
That's why I'll do things within the wall. I won't do things on the wall.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because you can cover it up.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't leak, it's working. It's fine.
Yeah.
The drywall covers it up.
I like electrical work. I think that's very self-explanatory. If I were to, that's actually good. If I were to ever be a tradesman, I wouldn't do plumbing because I don't want to deal with sewer backups and water leaks and all that kind of stuff. HVAC, I don't want to be in the attic of a house, when it's 115 degrees outside, fixing somebody else's AC. But electrical work, I could do that inside.
Still in the attic. The guy that ran line for me the other day, he spent a good hour in my attic fishing lines.
Oh God! Well, I'm only going to do new construction.
Okay, there you go. Never mind. But you're talking about plumbing. Sorry, I saw something the other day. It was a video of a guy, and he's like, "People wonder why I charge so much." And he had a video of him like pull under the house, pulling the insulation out of the subfloor, and shit coming down because the waistline had backed up and it had like spread all through the insulation, and he had to get to the waistline, and he's like in there pulling that out, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be a plumber.
How much do I write the check out for, buddy?
Yeah. From that situation right there, man.
I'm good on the plumbing. Hard pass.
I'll go do electrical before I do plumbing. I'm with you. I'm like, plumbing? Yeah. What's it cost? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I know we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole there, but that was fun still. But anyways, guys, I hope you learned something from some of the mistakes that we've made, some of the perspective that we bring to the table. If you have questions, like drop them in the chat. We're happy to answer questions on, some of our perspective or questions you might have. So, feel free to reach out. And, that's why we do this every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. If you put your comments on Facebook, they'll show up on our question board here and we can answer them live. So appreciate you guys all for joining, and we will see you again next Tuesday.
See you guys.